Let's get lyrical. It's a miracle how he gets so lyrical.
So this is a Bob Dylan song called With God on Our Side. It's from his third album, I think, The Times They Are A-Changin', but really his second album of original songs. Still in his folk period, his, what people thought of as his protest song period, although he always shook off that label. He never liked it very much. And this is a live version of him singing it.
Good.
Oh, my name, it ain't nothing. My age, it means less. The country I come from is called the Midwest. I was taught and brought up there, the laws to abide, and that the land that I live in has God on its side. The history books tell it, they tell it so well. The cavalry's charged, the Indians fell. The cavalry's charged, the Indians died. The country was young, with God on its side. The Spanish-American wars had its day, and the Civil War too was soon laid away. And the names of the heroes I was made to memorize, with guns in their hands and God on their side.
Bob Dylan.
So it's one of these folk songs that is just, it's called a strophic song form, which is just one verse form over another, which ends with the same line every time. There's no chorus, there's no bridge. It's just verse after verse after verse after verse that all ends with God on our side or God's on your side or some version of that, which means we get used to it. And it's like, how is he going to set it up and connect to that idea each different time? And so the song starts just personally. Oh, my name, it ain't nothing. My age, it means less. The country I come from is called the Midwest. I was taught and brought up there, the laws to abide, and that the land that I live in has God on its side. So he's starting out talking about cultural conditioning. This is what, I was taught a really nice version of history. Second verse. Oh, the history books tell it. They tell it so well. The cavalry's charged, the Indians fell. The cavalry's charged, the Indians died. Oh, the country was young, with God on its side. You can feel what he's doing already. It's still this pleasant sounding melody. And it's this children's storybook version of a massacre.
Yep.
And the moral of the story is our country had God on its side. God bless America.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And then from there, he spins it into a bunch of other conflicts. The Spanish-American War had its day, and the Civil War too was soon laid away. Easy peasy, tidy, like done, no problem. And the names of the heroes I was made to memorize, with guns in their hands and God on their side.
Yeah, wow.
First World War. Oh, the First World War, boys, it's closed out its fate. The reason for fighting I never got straight, but I learned to accept it with pride, for you don't count the dead when God's on your side.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's like a 7-minute song, and he's got you now. Like you're in the middle of it. You can't escape. Yep. And it's just going to be one example after another. And the irony is piling up and the use of that hook, God on your side. And then the next one is, I'll just let you read this one.
When the Second World War came to an end, we forgave the Germans and we were friends. Though they murdered 6 million in the ovens they fried, the Germans now too have God on their side. Wow.
And this song came out in 1964. So we're talking about less than 20 years after
Wow.
the Second World
Yeah.
War ended, you know. And it sounds like you might just take that's not just a dig at the Nazis, that verse.
Mm.
It's a dig at like 1 minute, you know, two countries want to destroy each other. And now that now that we're in charge, we
Yeah.
forgave the Germans and we were friends. Now the Germans now too have God on their side.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
they're on our team.
Because we're the ones with God on
Yeah.
ours.
Yeah, exactly.
The
Yeah,
ones who massacred the Indians.
yeah.
But the use of, I mean, again, the power of choosing your rhymes carefully. All these innocent rhymes for side means that he gets to use in the ovens they fried here.
Yeah.
And what an impact that has at this point,
Yeah.
you know? If that had been the first verse, you'd turn off the song.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by
Yeah.
he's got you. And then you want to read the
Yeah.
next one?
I've learned to hate Russians all through my whole life. If another war starts, it's them we must fight. To hate them and fear them, to run and to hide, and accept it all bravely with God on my side. Yeah, wow. But now we got weapons of the chemical dust. If fire them we're forced to, then fire them we must. One push of the button and a shot the world wide, and you never ask questions when God's on your side.
Yeah.
Wow, you never ask questions. Yeah. I mean,
Never ask questions. Yeah.
that's so on point. Wow. And then what is it? What
Well,
happens then?
what just to talk about these two verses, one
Yeah.
thing I noticed is Russians are the enemy again in the West. We're
Mm-hmm.
learning to hate Russians. You turn on CNN or MSNBC for the last 6 years, ever since Trump
Yeah.
got elected. Never mind Ukraine.
Yeah.
Russia's coming to get us. Russia's killing our democracy. Russia's fomenting racism in the United
Yeah.
States. Russia's like we never get enough of having someone to blame, and God is on our side.
Yeah.
You know, to say I'm not saying anything about the niceness of the Russian regime, but the
Mm-hmm.
fact that we can always go back to them as a scapegoat and a boogeyman, it's
Yeah.
incredible in
Yeah.
2022. It seems 2023. But now we got weapons of the chemical dust. Yeah. And what I love about this verse is there's 6 lines that make it so clear that we should be asking questions. Like now it's not just some war off somewhere else. We could all die with a push of the button.
Yeah.
And you never ask questions when God's on your side, not even when not asking questions is going to get the planet destroyed.
Yeah.
And that's the power, the evil power of the idea of God when it's used, when it's weaponized to separate people from themselves, their souls, their self-preservation, their love for each other, their confidence in asking questions. It's God is all powerful. I'm not talking about God the deity. I'm talking about God the Word.
Yeah.
If
And
he can
also, of
make
course,
it,
he's sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, it's also, he's also showing that if you're raised with that story, then you'll drag that on for the rest of your lives. It's if the education starts like that, then good luck.
That's right, and exactly, because like we said, he started the song with how he was trained, how he was brought up.
Yeah. If that's the
Yes,
books you read as a child, that's what's in your school, if that's what's being taught to you.
that's right.
So it's
That's
also a
right.
real dig at
And then
education, I guess.
yeah, of course it is, and then you'll teach it to others, because that's
Yeah.
culture. I was in Venice, Italy yesterday, and I visited the torture museum just for fun,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
shits and giggles. The witchcraft and torture museum. I wish there'd been more witchcraft in the museum, because they didn't
Mm-hmm.
really get into like I wanted to know about the religious practices of the witches, but I saw a stake, and a cleaver and gallows and all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff. But all of these people who tortured not just witches, but heretics, anyone who spoke badly about the church, just absolute savage barbarity.
Mm.
Just, and I mean, I was in a castle where it happened. this museum took place, was actually located in. All of the people who inflicted these tortures and punishments had God on their side.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they did it. They totally had
Yeah.
God on their side.
Yeah.
Through many dark hour, I've been thinking about this, that Jesus Christ was betrayed by a kiss. But I can't think for you. You'll have to decide whether Judas Iscariot had God on his side.
Well, it's amazing lyrics.
They are. It's almost too deep for me to even get my head
Grasp.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if Jesus is God, did Judas have God on his side when he betrayed Jesus?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or did he justify it to himself, saying, I have to do this because this is actually the right thing? But ultimately, I think, the song is pointing to the way we shirk responsibility by pawning it off on God.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then maybe you want to read the last verse, which is, as Bob Dylan does so well, he ends it with a bit of a.
So now as I'm leaving, I'm weary as hell.
Wait, Kate Blanchett is here? You didn't tell me you invited her.
We wish. So now as
Someday.
I'm leaving, I'm weary as hell. The confusion I'm feeling ain't no tongue can tell. The words fill my head and fall to the floor. If God's on our side, he'll stop the next war. Yeah.
Sung with the exact same melody, So what I love about that is after like 6 minutes of these, he's telling himself these things, right?
Convinced, yeah.
Convinced, but just kind of repeating it and almost in a kind of daze, Da 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 da. It's almost a hymn. You could imagine this melody being sung in a church.
Yeah, like a mantra, like
a mantra,
God's on
right?
my side, God's on my side.
God's on my side. And then, but at the end, he admits, I'm weary as hell. The confusion I'm feeling ain't no tongue can tell. The confusion of, it's cognitive dissonance, actually. The song is about the experience of holding beliefs that just don't hold together. The words fill my head and fall to the floor. Like I can't even speak them. They just they just tumble out of me. That if God's on our side, he'll stop the next war. Exhale.
Yeah.
That's the first really truthful, authentic human sentiment in the whole song, right?
Yeah.
And it risks being heretical. If God's on our side, he'll stop the next war. It risks being blasphemous. And of course, this song was happening right around the time that Lyndon Johnson was ramping up the war in Vietnam.
Yeah, it's great that he just all of a sudden shows that to whoever's coming along with him in this mantra.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a shock.
It's a bit of a shock. It's like the two pilgrims walking along the road, fingering their rosaries and saying the prayers, and then one of them kind of turns to the other and it's like, do you ever wonder if God is really like, do you ever have this? I just have this, I'm really confused, maybe I just need to sit down. Maybe I'm dehydrated, but I just had this thought, and maybe I'll just say it and get it out of my system, that if God was really on our side, maybe he wouldn't send us to like drop exfoliating chemicals on villagers halfway around the world who never did anything to us.
Silence. The other guy.
Awkward.
Yeah. Cringe.
Cringe. TFW. Someone speaks out against war. Don't you hate it when you're just trying to get along and happily be propagandized, and someone talks about how if God's on our side, he'll stop the next war, and then he plays the harmonica.